So we are approaching the end of the 2025 offseason. Training camp is basically less than a month away, so I thought it would be a good time to put every single Eastern Conference team into a tier list. And I asked you guys on my Instagram story which conference I should do first. You guys voted for the East, so hey, if you want to partake in any stuff like that, go follow me on Instagram. Link is in the description. And obviously, one of my next videos on the channel will be a Western Conference tier list. Hey, I gotta break something up. We're here deep into the 2025 offseason, so I have the East into 6 different tiers. Finals contender, I think that it's going to be a disappointing season for you if you don't at least make it to the conference finals, but you can go to the finals, potentially win it. Frisky Eastern Conference Finals, it could be last year's Pacers, could be like the 2021 Atlanta Hawks, or maybe like the 2023 Miami Heat. Playoff teams, I don't think that you're going to make it to the conference finals, but I feel confident that your floor is probably the high-end play-in, but I do think you could be a top 6 seed. Play-in tournament, I think you're going to finish in that 7 to 10 range most likely. Potential play-in, a back-end play-in team, but hey, you could be frisky and exceed expectations to get into the play-in tournament. And then June 2026, which is the month that the NBA draft will be in next year. Those teams probably going to be tanking this season. Before we get back into the video, I want to give a word from today's sponsor, the Farmer's Dog. A month ago, I talked to you guys about the Farmer's Dog for the first time, and I was talking about in that video how I went through their personalized quiz to get your pre-packaged food for your dog for the first time for my dog Tucker, and he absolutely loved it. And here we are a month later, where I have seen him lose some weight. He's had more energy out there, and he just loves this food as well, more than the kibble I was feeding him prior to working with the Farmer's Dog. And I'm really glad I got introduced with them and I could showcase them to you guys as well, for all you dog owners out there. And it also makes it super simple as well. I don't have to go out to any type of store to go out and get my dog's food. It's delivered right to my doorstep, just making it a little bit easier, a little bit less stressful for me to feed my dog on a day-to-day basis. They send you a reusable container you're able to use as well, and you could pre-portion the meals throughout the week. Like I said, just making your life a little bit easier. Your dog's eating healthier food, less processed, and your life is easier. It is just the best of both worlds. And I really wish I tried this sooner as well. My dog is 4 years old. I wish I was giving him the Farmer's Dog a few years ago as well. And I just have the peace of mind that my dog Tucker is getting fresh and balanced meals every day throughout the week. So I mentioned how they deliver it right to your doorstep, and it's a pre-portioned meal personalized for your dog exactly. Not every dog is the same. They're not going to have the same eating habits, and the Farmer's Dog will personalize that perfectly for your dog. They also have a 24/7 customer support as well, and they're running a fantastic promotion for you guys, my viewers, where you can get 50% off your first box of freshly made healthy dog food by heading to the Farmer's Dog using my link in the description or the pinned comment below, or you could scan the QR code on your screen. Free shipping and 24/7 customer support with it as well. And thank you again to the Farmer's Dog for sponsoring today's video. So yeah, thank you again to Farmer's Dog for sponsoring today's video. Definitely recommend checking them out below. The first team we're going to talk about is going to be the Detroit Pistons, a team that was in the playoffs last year as a top 6 seed. They could still end up with Malik Beasley this offseason. I don't think that would make them into a new tier if they were to sign him, but that is going to be a big addition given how good he was for them last year. They brought in Duncan Robinson essentially on a 1-year deal. You could see he's only guaranteed $2 million in 2027. They brought in Karis LeVert on a 2-year deal. Dennis Schroeder's in Sacramento. Tim Hardaway Jr. is in Denver. They didn't have a first-round pick, but they're going to get Jaden Ivey back. Hopefully he can look like he did before the major injury he suffered last year. You have one of the best young players in the NBA, Cade Cunningham, who was an All-NBA player last year. They loved playing under JB Bickerstaff, who overachieved with this team. I really like Jalen Duren's defensive improvement throughout the season. Asar Thompson could end up on an all-defensive team overall this season. And then you also have Ron Holland going to your number 2. I don't love the big man depth on this team. If there were a Jalen Duren injury, just like B-Ball Paul as your 3rd string center, could have maybe added somebody a little bit different this offseason, but hopefully Isaiah Stewart can have somewhat of a bounce back offensive year. Kind of wild, he only averaged 6 points per game last year. I think Detroit, I think they're going to be a playoff team. So that means you could be a high-end playing team. Like they could be a 7 or an 8 seed. They win that matchup and they're in as the 7th seed in April. But I do think they're going to be a playoff team next year. They should get some internal development out of Thompson, Ivy, Holland, and Duren, and I really believe in Cade Cunningham being that guy. Now, if Cade were to get injured last year, I don't know if this team can stay afloat. I think they are going to miss Dennis Schroeder's ball handling if Jaden Ivey isn't ready yet for that workload. But either way, I'm a big fan of the Pistons next year, and I'm just going to enjoy watching them throughout the regular season. They could end up in that frisky ECF tier, maybe by the end of this, if I like them over some of the other teams in that kind of tier range. So we'll go to Philadelphia next, and there'll be timestamps link in the description as well, so you can go to your favorite team if you wanted to. Philadelphia is maybe the most impossible team to predict. Now, Quentin Grimes has not re-signed yet. It is crazy. It's September 9th, and we haven't seen Grimes, Kuminga, or Giddey re-sign. We just saw Cam Thomas come back on the qualifying offer, which is kind of crazy. This team is paying basically 90% of its cap space to Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey. That's why they need to penny pinch right now, try to get off of the Andre Drummond or Kelly Oubre contracts. I really enjoyed watching Dembona in Eurobasket this summer. I'm excited to see Justin Edwards after such a promising rookie year going into year number 2. McCain's going to be back healthy, but how is he going to look off that major injury? He's somebody that thrives on the off-ball movement, his agility, his quickness. Will that injury just kind of affect him a little bit, at least at the start of the year? They're bringing in the number 3 overall pick, Edgecombe. Paul George can't be worse than he was last year, right? We'll see. It looks like he might be hurt to start off the year. And this team has so much variance just because they can have a top 3 player, a top 5 player in the league in Joel Embiid when he's healthy, but that is it, when he is healthy. And Paul George might be banged up to start off the year. There could be like a Bradley Beal or Damian Lillard situation for Philadelphia next summer where they're talking about buying out and stretching and waiving Paul George. I think Philadelphia is going to end up as a play-in team next year. I just think the Eastern Conference is right there for the taking. Now, if Embiid misses 45 games next year, or 50 games, yeah, I'd probably drop them down to potential play-in. But this is a team that also has like a top 4 protected pick going to OKC. I like the guard depth enough, and I'm going to assume they're going to bring back Quentin Grimes. And I think even if Embiid misses like 40 games, they could still go like 38 and 44 and be a 9 or a 10 seed. Maybe you want to bump them up to playoff team. Maybe you want to bump them down to potential play-in. I just can't have that much faith and trust into this team, given what they've been over the last 2 years in the Eastern Conference. So next up, we have the Milwaukee Bucks. Another tough team to really kind of go on either end here, just because they kind of got better this offseason given what you expected them to be this year, and that was going to be without Damian Lillard throughout the whole season. It really sucked he tore his Achilles because there was going to be a Damian Lillard trade market, and they would have probably traded him and gotten a good return if Damian Lillard didn't get hurt. So they stretch and wave Dame, they bring in Miles Turner, they bring back Bobby Portis, Kevin Porter Jr., Rollins, Trent, Gary Harris, Taurean Prince, Jericho Sims all get brought back. They bring back the Nassus for the vibe, so we know that Giannis isn't getting traded this offseason. I don't have too much faith in like a Tyler Smith or an Andre Jackson or Chris Livingston next year. Just kind of been the same old story with the Bucks and their young development. It does feel like somebody could get waived. There's been talks about Andre Jackson getting waived, which would kind of be crazy. And they also have Cole Anthony next year. They have plenty of guard depth. It's not a ton of quality, but it's definitely quantity. A part of me wants to just have Milwaukee here. I don't really see them going to the conference finals unless Kuzma somehow turns back into like bubble Kuzma playing around LeBron. I mean, Giannis was a top 3 player in the league last year, in my opinion, or a top 4 player, and they still got bounced in round number 1 to an Indiana Pacers team that, yes, went to the NBA Finals, and Halliburton hit some buzzer beaters, and maybe that series goes a little bit differently if Dame wasn't even, like, kind of banged up going into it, or he had that blood clot later in the year. It was really just a disappointing year for Damian Lillard, and you really felt bad for him with everything going on. I just think this team's ceiling, like, if Giannis gets hurt, they're like, who's stepping up? Kyle Kuzma is your number 1 option. Miles Turner, Bobby Portis. I just don't think it's going to work out too well, but I do think they have a higher floor than somebody like Philadelphia. So I'm going to have them as a playoff team right now. I think they could end up being a 7th or an 8th seed. They could also be a 5 or a 6 seed at the moment. For Chicago, they should be right here. They should be full throttle into the 2026 draft and move on from some veterans and stop treating the playing tournament like your Super Bowl, but I just can't take them out of the potential play-in right now. So I do have Chicago as a team that could probably be the 9th seed, 10th seed, 11th seed, or 12th seed, pretty much what they've been over the last few years. I really can't expect Vucevic to be on this team after the deadline, and if he is, I really hope that you're like 10 games above 500, because there's no need or no reason for Vucevic to be on this team in February. They could buy out Kevin Huerter or Zach Collins. I expect them to re-sign Kobe White, but who knows? Maybe he's an unrestricted free agent next year. Maybe I would assume gets traded. I'm super high on Matas Buzelis going into next year. Talked about how I like Essengay, but it's going to be a little bit of a project. And I'm going to assume they're going to bring back Josh Giddey as well to initiate this offense. It's going to be a bad defense as well, but I really enjoyed watching the Bulls in the second half last year. I like the run and gun style. I've talked about it a couple times this offseason. I would have loved Derek Queen in this offense, maybe then Noah Essengay. They're going to be a potential play-in team, and they could definitely drop down here if they move on from like a Giddey or a Kobe White, which would be kind of unexpected right now. For the Cavs, Probably like potential play in next year. I just worry about the Garland injury. I'm just kidding. They're finals contenders next year. They won 64 games last year. I mean, you do have the injuries to Darius Garland and Max Strus at the moment, which is a little concerning because you don't love to see that, right? And who knows how that could affect them next year. But you bring in Lonzo Ball this offseason, you lock up Sam Merrill, you bring in Larry Nance Jr., maybe we see a leap from Jalen Tyson, and you have the reigning decoy, you have a top 10, top 15 player in the league in Donovan Mitchell, DeAndre Hunter fit like a glove, and Allen is a top 10-ish center in the league as well. So you have loads of talent, and you're going to hope that Garland is at least full strength by February, and that is pretty conservative as well. It's just this team has had disappointing playoff exit after disappointing playoff exit to the Knicks in round one. First year with Donovan Mitchell in 2023. You know what? They were banged up against a good Boston team in 2024. But last year, I know they were banged up against Indiana, but losing that game too pretty much ended the series right there. But this is the Eastern Conference for the taking, like I said. With Tatum hurt, with Halliburton hurt, the Cavs could go to the conference finals for the first time since 2018 and for the first time in Donovan Mitchell's career. And they could definitely win this conference as well. They can have a really good defense, a really good offense. They were the best offensive team in the league last year. We'll see how Lonzo Ball can replace Ty Jerome because he was a big part of that at times. But I just think this team's deep. It's well coached. It's got its high-end talent. I still want to see Evan Mobley as like a full-time five. We're probably not going to get that this year. Thought maybe there was a chance they were going to trade a Garland or an Allen this offseason. But I think once they saw the injuries to Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton, they're like, okay, we actually have a legitimate chance now, and an even better chance than we did last year at going to the NBA Finals. So they decided to run it back. Dan Gilbert was willing to go into the second apron yet again for this squad. And next up, we have the New York Knicks, who I'm also going to put in finals contenders as well. The New York Knicks, I thought, were going to the NBA Finals last year through about 3.5 quarters of game number one, and then Tyrese Halliburton and Aaron Nesmith happened, and then they lose the second game, a close one at the Garden. So they're down 2-0. They end up losing to the Indiana Pacers in 6 games. But this is a team that's also like, we don't need to do anything major this offseason. Tatum and Halliburton are hurt. They beat Boston. They decide to make a change at the head coaching position. Changing the philosophy can hopefully elevate their ceiling for 2026. Everybody's back though. Cat, Anunoby, Brunson, Bridges, and Hart. These guys played so many minutes for the Knicks last year. They're going to be back. But this team's getting deeper. Mitchell Robinson's going to be healthy at the start of the year. They bring in Gershon Yabusele, who was a great player last year for the 76ers. A good stretch 4. He's also been having a great Eurobasket as well. They bring in Jordan Clarkson, who got waived by the Utah Jazz, and they could still add another veteran minimum or 2 this offseason. I just feel like they were a 3 seed last year. They, you know what, could have lost to Detroit. Like basically every one of those games was fairly close, and that series could have gone another way, but they beat Detroit. Nobody expected them to beat Boston. Boston kind of choked games 1 and 2, and then Tatum gets hurt. So maybe you want to have them in frisky ECF, and they're kind of frauds from last year. It's all going to come down to Mike Brown and changing the philosophy, being more creative and experimental throughout the regular season. So he's not doing what Tibbs did last year and has to kind of just be creative on the fly and try to throw something out there that he didn't really do in the regular season, playing DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet more minutes, moving Josh Hart to the bench. But the Knicks did have some good injury luck last year for the most part, so we'll see if that can come back and bite them this year. For Boston, this is also such a tough team to kind of rank next year. You could put them in potential play-in. I think they're right on par with Philadelphia right now, but if Jaylen Brown gets hurt next year, yeah, I might be out on Boston as even a play-in team just because Tatum out for the year. He's not officially out for the year. I just can't see them rushing him back in March if this is a team that can't seriously win the NBA Finals. Just have your eyes set on 2027 because it's not just Jason Tatum that won't be with them to start off the year. Kristaps Porzingis is in Atlanta. Drew Holiday's in Portland. Al Horford's probably going to be in Golden State. So we'll see how Jaylen Brown can kind of step up as a number 1. Can Derek White be a number 2? How is Anthony Simons going to look in this offense? I'm sure he's going to love taking as many threes as Joe Mazzulla wants him to, but how is he going to look defensively? How is Peyton Pritchard going to be? Can they get anything out of Hugo Gonzalez this year? This could legitimately be the worst big man rotation in the league with Tillman and Garza and Queta and Boucher and Amari Williams. There's just a lot of guys there. I probably like Neemias Queta the most. I think Boston's going to be a playing team, but they probably drop down to here or maybe even here if Derek White or Jaylen Brown miss a significant amount of time next year. But who knows? Maybe they could trade Anthony Simons for a big man and they could bump up to a playoff team when it's all said and done. But I think right now, I feel confident that they're probably going to end up in like that 9 to 11 range, 8 to 11 range at the moment. The Miami Heat, another team that I feel like people are split on next year. They had Jimmy Butler. I'd probably say like here or here. Now, they finally have no drama, right? They trade Jimmy Butler to Golden State last year. They looked horrible after the trade, but finished the season off on a semi-strong note. They make it out of the play-in tournament. Davion Mitchell looked great, and then they ended up getting embarrassed by the Cleveland Cavaliers. Tyler Hero could not step up as a number 1 option yet again in the playoffs, and that's not really going to change next year either. Hero is still going to be the number 1. Now, Bam finished the season off on an incredible note after having a kind of slow start to the year, was not a good shooter whatsoever, and was pretty disappointing in the first half. Wiggins ended the season on a strong note. Hopefully Rozier for them is not in the rotation anymore. They get Norman Powell for basically free this offseason. I really like Davion Mitchell and Fontecchio here, and I think Fontecchio can replace Duncan Robinson very nicely. We could maybe get a Jovic or a Ware breakout or a Larson as well. I like Kasperius Akuchonis as a rookie. I think this team also has maybe a higher floor than Boston and Philadelphia, but maybe a lower ceiling as well. I think Miami could either be a playoff team or a play-in team. I think it's going to come down between who do I like more between Miami or Toronto. We'll eventually get to that. I think right now, though, I'm going to throw Miami in a playoff team for next year's season. Now I got to figure out who I like in Frisky ECF. Like, that could be Atlanta. Do I think Atlanta is going to be a finals contender next year? That is pretty much the big question, right? They were in the conference finals in 2021. They thought they were better than they really were, and then they kind of regressed year over year. They haven't won a playoff series since that 2021 ECF run. But this is the time, right? This is the year and the offseason. They went all in around Trae Young. Anssi Salah comes in. Landry Fields leaves. Well, Salah's now the main decision maker, even though he's been there before. And he goes out, trades for Kristaps Porzingis, gets the Kill Alexander Walker, gets Asa Newell and Luke Kennard, and we can really see internal development from this team as well. Johnson back healthy. He was playing like an all-star before the injury. Onyeka Okongwu was spacing the floor better in the second half. You have the number 1 overall pick, Zachary Risache from last year, who looked really good in Eurobasket play as well. And how about Dyson Daniels, who was one of the best defenders in the sport, the most improved player. Kobe Buffkin could maybe give you something. Same with Vic Krejci or Mohamed Gay, or maybe even Nikola Jurisic as well next year. I like to pick up Caleb Houston, and they also own like that unprotected first-round swap between New Orleans and Milwaukee. Maybe they make a trade at some point this year. They would have the assets to do so. I mean, if you put Atlanta up there, I'm okay with it. It's just, do you think Trae Young can lead this team like we've seen at least Jalen Brunson lead the Knicks to the conference finals this year, and Donovan Mitchell kind of lead the Cavs throughout the regular season? Because, yeah, Trae Young's got more conference finals appearances than basically anybody in the Cavs starting 5, not named DeAndre Hunter because he played with Trae Young in Atlanta. We just got to see it, man. This is the year. No excuses for Atlanta. Trae Young could be an all-star, could be an all-NBA player. People think he could be an MVP candidate. He's also an unrestricted free agent. I don't think you want that drama, but maybe trade just to like the front office. I want to get that full 5-year max that I can get when I hit day 1 of unrestricted free agency. So we'll see. I do think they're a little bit below New York and Cleveland, but they're right there as well. I think they kind of leapfrogged these 3 teams this offseason. And then another team that I think is going to be up there as well, the Orlando Magic. I also kind of love the Orlando Magic in the regular season. If you would have told me that there's a team not named the Cavs that got the 1 seed, I believe the Magic are better suited for the regular season than the New York Knicks. They're just incredibly deep. We know that they could be one of the best defensive teams in the league. Last year, with all their injuries to Franz, Paolo, Mo Wagner, and Jalen Suggs, they were still a top 3 defensive team in the NBA. But it still blows my mind reading that stat that they haven't had a top 20 offensive rating season since 2012. That is crazy. I believe that's going to change this year. I love the addition of Desmond Bane. This front office and ownership is going all in. This is a very expensive team, as you can see, because in 2027, Paolo is going to start making $41 million. They're essentially going to have like 3 max-ish deals, and then you have Jalen Suggs making 19% of your cap space as well. Wendell Carter Jr. is on an extension. I mean, you add Tyus Jones. You needed a backup point guard or just somebody that can maybe step in and be an initiator that's not going to turn the ball over and just throw an entry pass to Paolo Banchero, and they get that in Tyus Jones. I love them drafting Jace Richardson. We might not see him too much this year because look how deep this team is. You still want to invest a little bit into Anthony Black, a former top 10 pick. You're going to get Mo Wagner back healthy. I really like watching Goga Badatse for Georgia in the Eurobasket as well. Maybe Isaac gives you something, but yeah, I think Paolo Banchero can be an all-NBA guy. Franz Wagner can be an all-star. Desmond Bane, at the minimum, is going to shoot 37% from 3, and maybe you get something out of Tristan De Silva as well. I do think they're better than Atlanta, and I think they're closer to New York and Cleveland than we think they are. Next up, Brooklyn, first team here in the June 2026 tier. So they just brought back Cam Thomas on the qualifying offer. They clearly did not want to give him a long-term deal. Sean Marks did not see the vision with him in Brooklyn. Yeah, look how he's making $6 million next year. Zaire Williams is making more money than Cam Thomas, which blows my mind. They were in the same draft class in 2021. And Cam Thomas also has a full no trade clause, so will they trade him this year? Could a team that's contending, that maybe is like the Milwaukee Bucks or the Warriors, be willing to part ways with like a lottery protected first to get Cam Thomas, who's averaged 25 points and is an extremely talented bucket getter, but can you incorporate him and implement him in a different role where he's going to have to take less shots, be more of a pass first guy, guy, more of a defender, more of a transition runner. Will that happen? That's something you have to evaluate throughout the season. You bring in Michael Porter Jr. for the Cam Johnson trade. I think they should have moved Cam Johnson back at the deadline. I'd rather have just had like 2 firsts, maybe not as valuable as a 2032 one. But now you got to pay Michael Porter Jr. $38 million this year, $40 million in 2027. Unless he turns into Kevin Durant, I don't think you're going to be able to get off of that $40 million in 2027. You have Terrence Mann. You have 5 incoming rookies on this team. You still want to see what you have in Clowney or maybe Whitehead. You bring in Hayward Highsmith. They're still under the salary floor right now. I know they exceeded expectations last year and like weren't as bad as Washington or Charlotte, which was kind of shocking, or even Philadelphia. But this year, I don't think Jordi Fernandez can save this team. Yeah, they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NBA. And then for Washington, I think June 2026 as well. There's a part of me that wants like to put them in the potential play-in just because they're so young and they have 2 solid veterans in Middleton and McCollum, but their first round pick is top 8 protected to the Knicks. No way this ownership or front office wants them to lose that pick this year just to kind of get like bounced in the play-in or end up as like the 9th overall pick, because then they don't get it and they're not even in the play-in tournament either. They just want to see what they can get out of the young guys. I expect McCollum, Middleton, and maybe even Corey Kispert to be off this team after the deadline or buyout market. They want to see improvement from Sarr, Bilal Coulibaly, who struggled in Eurobasket this summer. You have Trey Johnson, the incoming 6th overall pick that could end up being the main guy you're looking at in Washington going forward, and he could be like their franchise building block after this season. You have to give touches and reps to Bub, to Cam Whitmore, Riley, Johnson, and maybe even Keyshawn George, who was one of the better rookies in the second half last year. This is an abysmal big man rotation. Like Alex Sarr was not good last year. We'll see if he can improve this year. He was fine defensively, just really bad offensively. So we'll see the improvement. But like him, Bagley, Vukcevic, it's not a good big man rotation compared to the rest of the NBA. They're going to be better than Brooklyn, in my opinion, just because of the young quality depth. I just don't think they're going to be a potential play-in team. So Toronto, they're tough, man. Like, can I put them in a playoff team? Do I think they could be a 7 or an 8 seed? I think they're just a high-end play-in team as well. I think they're a team that could end up as like 7, 8, maybe 9. I mean, they could shock me and they could be better than Milwaukee. Like, that wouldn't fully shock me. I kind of want to throw them here, and I kind of want to put like Detroit and frisky ECF. This is an expensive team as well, and last year they underperformed for sure, but quickly Barrett, Barnes were all hurt. They trade for Brandon Ingram at the deadline. He doesn't play a single minute for them in the second half. They have a lot of depth as well. Mogbo and Jamal Shed looked great defensively last year. Jacoby Walter was a lot better after he was called up from the G League. I like the pickup of Sandro Mamukelashvili. Grady Dick looked so good in the first half. Struggled in the second half, but if he could revert back to what he was in the first half, that'd be great. Agbaji's a solid depth piece. They bring in one of the best defenders from the 2025 draft in Colin Murray-Boyles. They extend Jakob Poeltl. Don't love the extension, but I see why they did it. They fired Masai Ujiri, which was kind of crazy. Bobby Webster kind of just got a promotion from the GM to now like the president there. I think they're going to be like a high-end playing team or a playoff team, but like the thing is, I got 5. I guess these are my 8 playoff teams, right? In the Eastern Conference, and Philly and Boston don't end up making it. Because I also have Indiana in potential play-in as well. I think they're going to be a little bit worse than we think. I think they're really going to miss Miles Turner in the first half of the year. We'll see how Jay Huff, Wiseman, and Isaiah Jackson coming off major injuries are going to be as their lone rim protectors. They need Jarris Walker to take a leap. Can Benedict Mathurin adapt his playing style to Rick Carlisle with his usage going up? How is McConnell going to look at 33 years old? I mean, Neesmith, Toppin, Nembhard, these guys are great role players. I don't know if Andrew Nembhard could be an 18-point per game guy on good efficiency. I know he was hurt in the regular season last year to start off the year, but he wasn't as efficient as you would have liked, and then we know he's a playoff riser. Will they get something out of Johnny Furphy or Cam Jones or Ben Shepherd? Maybe. I like the pieces they have here, but I wouldn't be shocked if they were sort of sellers at the deadline. So I think they're going to be more so potential play-in. And I also think the Charlotte Hornets are going to be here as well. I kind of like the Hornets next year. I liked them last year as well. They won, like 19 games, but everybody got hurt. Like, everybody got hurt in Charlotte. And even if LaMelo got hurt, which has been the trend over the last few years, if he gets hurt, you have Sexton, you have Spencer Dinwiddie, you have Trey Mann healthy now, like 3 solid guards behind him, which gives me more confidence to raise and elevate their floor. I love Brandon Miller as a prospect still. People are off him. I'm buying more stock into Brandon Miller. Grant Williams is going to be healthy. Josh Green, Miles Bridges, fine role players. You bring in Con Knipple the 4th overall pick in the draft. He's got such a high floor as well as a player in this league. Maybe you get something out of T.J. Salon in year 2, Liam McNeely, who was a late first rounder, or Nick Smith Jr. going into year number 3. The thing for them is their big man rotation also isn't great. I brought it up with Boston and Washington. This is also up there as like one of the worst in the league. Kalkbrenner, Diabate, 2 guys I'm really intrigued about next year, but you're asking a lot out of them to anchor the defense. And 35-year-old Mason Plumlee as well. I think they're just going to be kind of frisky throughout the year. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if they ended up with a better record than Indiana. So that is going to be my Eastern Conference tier list right there. 3 teams in finals contender. You could definitely drop Orlando to this tier, and I'm okay with it. But I also wanted to respect Detroit, given how well they fought against the New York Knicks. I know they lost Schroeder. Maybe they bring back Malik Beasley, but they didn't have Jaden Ivey as well. Maybe they make a trade. I think these 3 teams could have a higher floor maybe than Detroit next year, but definitely a lower ceiling. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with Boston or Philadelphia with Jaylen Brown now as a number 1 with Embiid's health, potential play, and just no Halliburton. I'm a little bit lower on the Pacers, even though we should respect them, right? They were in the NBA Finals, and how will Siakam be as a number 1? I like Charlotte, and Chicago should be down here for their sake, but we know that Jerry Reinsdorf loves the play-in, and then I have Washington and Brooklyn down here. So that is going to be it for me. Hope you guys did enjoy this video. Let me know what you agree with or disagree with down below. Make sure you're subscribed because I will have the Western Conference tier list out later this week. And thank you again to the Farmer's Dog for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to check them out down below in the description or the pinned comment below. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.